Also, thank you to AthChat, a local political podcast. You can find us anywhere online. I will be a co-moderator, Russell Edwards, and my co-moderator.
I'm Drew Abney. Thank you all for being here. You can find our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We're having fun here, and we're live. We're recording this for a podcast episode. And so, yeah, this is the first mayoral debate in Athens for this year. And so what we're going to do today, this is a 2-hour debate format. This is not a question and answer or a forum. We've given the campaigns all the format ahead of time. We've given them the general topics ahead of time. I'm saying that just to be transparent. And that's what we're trying to do here, is be unbiased. There is a timing that we're going to go over in terms of the rules, and we are going to try to be we're going to be professional timers tonight. And so thank you all for being here. This is a packed room. And we want you to be audience members, but hopefully not participants. So please respect the format. If you want to clap, I think we can clap.
You know,
we didn't talk about
let's not get crazy.
Okay.
Let's not.
But maybe no heckling.
Yeah. No heckling.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for being here. Russell, do you want to go through the rules?
So, everybody's going to be on their best behavior, I know, because we're going to have a great time tonight. We have topics that are poignant, that are happening right now on the commission, and each of these wonderful 3 candidates who decided to put themselves forward for public service are going to be answering on these topics. Each candidate will have 1 minute for each question. We've randomly chosen the first candidate to have the first shot, Dr. Gantt. Well done with your guessing.
That wasn't really random.
Rock, paper, scissors. Well done. So we're going to randomly go through. Dr. Gantt's going to get the first one, and then Ms. Zuniga will get to answer the second question first, and then Mr. Denson will get to answer the next question first, and we'll just go through round robin. So the way it'll go, if a candidate calls out another candidate, within our discretion, we will award a 30-second rebuttal and further a 15, 20-second counter rebuttal let's get some interesting things out here, right? Let's see what happens. To start off, we will have opening statements from each candidate, and that opening statement will be 1 minute. So to be clear, we're going to have the opening statements, then we're going to go right into the first questions, which will deal with housing. Dr. Gantt will answer that first question. She'll have the first right to answer. Then Ms. Zuniga will answer that question. Then Tim will answer that question. And then within our discretion, if there's some calling out of other folks, we will give that person the opportunity to respond. Now, my discretion will be impacted by your command that I do something. That makes me feel small. And I feel like I did a lot of work to put this thing on. So everybody's going to be reasonable in here. We're going to have a great time. Right, Drew?
I'm going to be as reasonable as I can.
Let's all be reasonable. All right. Opening statements, 1 minute each. Let's start with Dr. Gantt. Go for it.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is LaKeisha Gantt, and I am running for mayor of Athens, Georgia. I am a native of Athens. I was born a few miles down the street. In Paldo. I have lived most of my life here and have been pretty significantly impacted by this community in many positive ways and sometimes in negative ways. I have served on the school board. This is my second term. I served as the president of the school board, and under my leadership, we were able to accomplish some pretty significant things for our organization. The main thing I want you to know about me is that I think you need a candidate who is not far removed from the struggles of everyday people. If you look around this room, while it's great that we all are here, there are people here whose voices are not heard. And historically, that has been the case. And when we look at issues like housing, when we look at issues like community uplift, and we look at where our small businesses are, we know that we need someone at the table and someone representing Athens who is not far removed from those issues. And I believe that will be me, and that is me. And I humbly ask that you consider my platform and that you will vote for me as your next mayor.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Gantt. This is a small room. You're welcome to speak as you did. You certainly projected yourself well. And you could also use the microphone if you would like. That will perhaps give us some better audio for the
Okay.
podcast too. Thank you. Ms. Zuniga, your 1 minute opening statement.
Good afternoon. My name is Mara Zuniga. And I hope you understand as I do something unconventional for my 1 minute intro. First, I would like to say thank you to everyone who is here this afternoon. It's a Saturday and I know you could be somewhere else. Primeramente quisiera darle las gracias a todos los que están aquí esta tarde porque pudieran haber hecho otra cosa pero están aquí. Secondly, I would like to thank Russell and Drew for making this event. Quisiera darle las gracias a Russell y Drew por haber hecho este evento. To Cine for allowing us to be here today. They always allow important events for the community. También darle las gracias a Cine por haber permitido que tuviéramos este evento aquí que realmente es muy importante para la comunidad. And finally, I would like to thank the candidates for making the time. Y finalmente quisiera darle el agradecimiento a los candidatos que hicieron el tiempo para estar aquí. Gracias. Thank you.
Right on the button. Well delivered. Thank you, Ms. Zuniga. Mr. Denson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Denson, and I'm running for mayor of Athens-Clarke County. Definitely want to first thank Russell and Drew with AthChat and Cine, of course, for having us here today. I'm running for mayor of Athens-Clarke County because Athens is an amazing town, an amazing place to live, but it's become unaffordable. And it's become the divide between those who are well off and those who are left out has just gotten way too wide and way too expansive. And because of these challenges, many of the challenges that are facing working class people here in Athens, we need to be focusing on those challenges. And there are things that we can do. We can lower the cost of housing and we can make housing more accessible for folks if we prioritize it. We can reduce homelessness here in this community. We have policies that can work and that have worked in the past, and we need to implement them and prioritize it. And we do need to make Athens just more affordable for everyone, focusing on childcare, making sure everybody can have transportation systems that are equitable and work for everybody. And my platform at timforathens.com goes over all these things, and I look forward to discussing them.
Great, thank you. Have a short round of applause for our candidates. All right.
Time to get to the meat of it.
Here we go. Top of the topic, certainly one that's almost at every single commission meeting for folks who've been following, the problem of housing and meeting the demand for housing in our community. Several experts and studies find that we are about 8,000 dwellings behind where we need to be to currently fulfill the demand on our housing. We have a historically low vacancy rate, about 3% apartments vacant. So not a lot of competition happening among landlords in Athens-Clarke County. Dr. Gantt, could you please walk us through how you see your role in enhancing the offerings in the housing market to try to bring down costs for everyday Athenians?
Yes, and can you remind me of the time limit, please, Russell?
1 minute.
1 minute. I think that we have a plan that has been laid out for us. So when you reference, if we were to reference our affordable housing initiative plan, it is pretty clear in that plan that we are going to need public help to be able to really impact affordable housing here in Athens. I believe that we have a great opportunity. Chances are that most of us in the room, we either pay taxes on a home that we own, or what we pay in rent is contributing to the taxes for the person that owns the home. And so I believe we have a wonderful opportunity here to partner with our institutions and have conversations and ask for payment in lieu of taxes. There are a variety of different ways that we could actually build affordable communities. But one thing is clear, building apartment complexes and having like 2 or 3 affordable units or 2 or 3 affordable units here or there, it is not going to impact the need that we have. So the very first plan is to partner with our local nonprofit institutions that right now are not paying taxes.
Great, thank you, Dr. Gantt. Ms. Zuniga, you have 1:30 seconds.
Oh, great, thank you. Well, I've dedicated most of my life to helping people obtain homes. I tell you, there's no greater look than when you sit down with a person and you prepare them for their first house, you know? It's a joy, but one thing that I have noticed is that people usually are not prepared for that kind of investment, you know? And I spent close to 20 years helping people understand the process and preparing myself for that. So I consider it to be financial literate. And I think we have a lot of initiatives at hand that both candidates will probably be discussing. And I think that the person that will be mayor needs to have some sort of understanding what it means to, you know, in the realm of financing, in real estate, to look at those initiatives. Because sometimes initiatives are not that great, you know, but it may seem good to the, you know, to people out there. But when you start taking apart initiatives and looking at them, and even if you instill some initiatives, you have to have a period where you have to look if they're working or not. And if they're not working, you have to have a plan to either reform them or just toss them out and come up with something new. So I think a game plan would be to sit down with experts in the community, discuss from their background in real estate and construction. And I can tell you this, I want people to have homes. It doesn't stop, you know, home ownership doesn't stop because the interest rates go up or because there's there's some sort of shortages. It's really a matter of educating people and letting them know what needs to be happening for them to buy homes. So, yes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Denson, 1.5 minutes. What are we going to do about housing?
Thank you. And I do agree that we need to have a mayor who understands the situation and that has already sat down with the experts. And I have done that. I served on the Georgia Initiative Community Housing for Athens-Clarke County. I served on the Inclusionary Housing Committee that created our inclusionary housing policy that we now have in place that actually just created dozens of more housing units that were the ribbon cutting was happening just 2 weeks ago. And I've worked with many DCA programs and HUD programs, including Rapid Housing, Georgia Housing Voucher Program, Housing Choice Vouchers, to have a strong understanding of those things, how to get people actually housed through them. But when it comes down to it, we need to have an understanding of what the housing crisis is that we're in right now. And we don't have enough housing. We need more housing, and we need a larger percentage of it to be affordable housing. Right now, from 2010 to 2020, the population of Athens grew 7%. But the housing stock only grew 2% during that 10-year period. And that happened across the nation, but especially here, creating this overwhelming competitiveness with rising costs soaring. Because at the same time, in 2010, we had 4,000 vacant rental units here in Athens-Clarke County. And therefore, the median rent in 2010 was $730. Now let's fast forward to 2023, where we only had 684 vacant units, and the median rent was $1,283. We can be creating more housing with our inclusionary housing policies and expanding them, using our affordable housing fund that Athens-Clarke County already has to make social housing, and of course using the new homestead exemption to bring down taxes for homeowners already.
Great, thank you. Just a quick follow-up. So about 30 seconds each candidate on this one. The current regulatory framework in Athens with our zoning codes have delivered this crisis to us, I think one could argue. So as mayor, what is a specific zoning change that you could envision impacting this housing shortfall that we're currently undergoing? Dr. Gantt?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Russell?
So putting it out there that we're in a housing crisis now, I think we'd all agree. Our current regulations governing housing in this community brought us where we are today. We're here today under the laws as they exist now. How might we change some of our laws or ordinances to attack the problem of housing scarcity?
So I hear you. I don't know that would be the singular thing that I would say brought us here today. I think it's been a variety of different things. We cannot ignore student housing. There has been an increase in student housing. Also, just the sheer number of students that are here that actually takes up any type of naturally affordable housing. And so I think we have to look at that. I also think we have to widen our perspective on what we consider homes. I think there are a variety of different creative ways that we can create and develop affordable housing communities. When we look at our accessory dwelling units and any type of limitations that we have there, I really think we have to be creative with how we define housing. And I think it needs to be consistent with our affordable initiative report. But I also think that we have to look at all of the contributing factors as well.
Thank you. Ms. Zuniga, same question. Housing crisis, where we are today under this existing legal framework, what changes to that framework that you promote as mayor to help attack that housing crisis? You have 1 minute.
I agree that there are regulations and ordinances that have to be looked at, that they've created, like obstacles and hurdles for people to build in Athens, and they have been outdated and they need to be looked at. I have a friend that came up with a pilot program, and it was 100 homes, manufactured homes, to do in Athens, but for some reason, there's a lot of obstacles there. It's something that's doable and that would get affordable housing, but because of ordinances and regulations against manufactured homes, that obstacle cannot be overtaken unless it's being looked at. So I do agree that these regulations and ordinances got us here, and we really need to look at the type of houses that will be permitted and to allow for some flexibility for that. So yes.
Thank you. Mr. Denson, same question. Existing legal framework delivered us a housing crisis. What can we do to change it?
Density. We have to have more density. Right now, as Russell said, we're already right now at this time about 8,000 housing units behind. It is predicted that with our growth trends by 2040, that we are going to be, what was the number? 30,000 additional people here by 2040. So if you put that in by the average number of people who are in a household, that means by 2040, on top of those 8,000, we're going to need 11,197 more units by 2040. That's a lot of units, y'all. Right now, we only have a little bit over about 52,000. So we're going to have to get a lot more density. Yeah, accessory dwelling units, definitely a way to do it. I actually helped draft an accessory dwelling unit policy that unfortunately did not pass the hurdle. But right now, you can actually build an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard, but you can't put a functioning kitchen in there. So what that means is that you can basically build an Airbnb, totally legal, but you can't build a place that for your mother-in-law or somebody else to live in the back. So we need to have more density. We need to be embracing missing middle. We've had our missing middle scanned. It's actually identified the nodes where it makes most sense to have more density. Not only will that expand our housing, but it'll pull down our infrastructure costs too.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Fascinating stuff. Mr. Drew.
All right. Well, thank you all. So this next question, first candidate will be Ms. Zuniga. Not unrelated to the housing topic is growth and gentrification issues here in Athens-Clarke County. Mr. Denson said 30,000 more people by 2040. That's a growth issue, right? But there's a balance between growth and this idea of gentrification all throughout our county. How, as mayor, would you deal with this balance between growth and gentrification? Ms. Zuniga.
Hey, you said my last name really good. Thank you. Having come from New York, I have to tell you, gentrification was seen a lot. High density, although I agree with Tim that we need high density, it has to be managed because with high density come other problems. We have a tendency to look at high density and look at it in a positive way to, because more people can fit in and we can get more taxes. But when you look at high density, you also have services. You need infrastructure for that. Are we ready and are we prepared? From what I've heard, we're in the hole for like close to $21 million in the upkeep of infrastructure. So that worries me when we talk about infrastructure. So when we talk about high density. So what I would say with something like that is that we just have to take that into consideration. High density does bring things like that, but it also brings gentrification. And I've seen that firsthand when I've gone to communities. I see what happened in New York happening here, and I don't want that to happen. I want us to have managed growth, something that we can see where we could put this high density, but at the same time have the infrastructure in place. That's managed growth. So I have seen gentrification. It just doesn't happen with vulnerable neighborhood. It also happens in places like Five Points. You don't think it happens, but it does.
Thank you.
Mr. Denson, you have a minute and a half.
Okay, I was just making sure she didn't get the extra 30 seconds because she complimented you.
Well,
So yeah, this problem is, this is the thing though, it's like Tetris, right? These people are coming, if we want them to or not. The part of this is because, look at this, UGA students. In 1989, there were 12,901 UGA undergrads living in the community who were not in university housing. That was 12,000 in 1989. This year, 24,159 undergrads who are living in the community who are not housed on campus. Those 24,000 students are therefore competing with the regular community housing that all of us are trying to get. So this housing we need it desperately. And the only way that we're going to get there is the density. Now, do we have to do it smart? Definitely. We have to do it smart. The amazing thing, again, is that actually whenever you are supplying infrastructure to dense areas, it's cheaper than doing in the spread out areas. You don't have to have as many water mains running out, and as much sewage running out, as much stormwater running out. The fire department, the police department doesn't have to travel as far. You don't have to build as many roads. So that's another thing you have. But this is the thing, we have to figure out a way to do this. Now, we need to also make sure that it's not happening only in underprivileged communities or in historic black communities, which is what we've seen in the past. So I would love for us to actually be starting to exploring creating districts that would get away from the mixed residential that we put in, say, East Athens and on Hancock, because what we did there is we actually encouraged that gentrification that happened in those areas, while we kept single family in places like Five Points, Normaltown, Homewood Hills, so that we wouldn't see that gentrification happening there. So we can also be changing this by changing our zoning code.
Dr. Gantt, how would you deal with the balance between growth and gentrification in Clarke County?
So there is a balance. And I just want to make a note here. I was sort of jotting down some things that we keep hearing that people are coming. And I think that that's a problematic way to think about it. We need to worry about the people that are here and the people that still are struggling, the people that are in neighborhoods that have been gentrified already. I think we need to look at where we need to push pause. Now, yes, there are places that people can develop things by right, but I don't think we can have this conversation without needing to push pause and figuring out where can we put moratoriums on where gentrification is heading, where it's happening at. When you look in places like North Athens and East Athens, there are like the telltale signs. Everywhere we see the signs that these places are going to be gentrified. And so I really would encourage us, yes, we have to plan for the future, but we also have to center our plans on the voices that are already here. I don't want to be insensitive because I know that there are different reasons that people move here, but I read reports often that say, oh, Athens, this is the best place to retire. And that's all great. But I think we would all agree that we are full. We are full with a lot of different issues and people, and it's great. It's beautiful, but we have to manage what we have. I don't think density is the only answer to this. I think we have to be strategic. And I will also say I think we have to loop in our future land use and zoning as well.
Thank you. Maybe this should have been asked first, but very quickly, 15 to 20 seconds, starting with, who do we start with on this one? Ms. Zuniga. What's the definition of gentrification? How do you define it?
How do I define it? Well, The way that I would define it is by,
Quickly, thank you.
oh, 20 seconds.
You got it.
Okay. My experience with gentrification having come, oh, sorry. My experience with gentrification is that when you have a blighted area, that's one of the gentrifications, is when you have a blighted area and people start moving in, and they bring the price and the value of homes up. And then the people that are there, they can't afford the higher assessed value. Because you're in a blighted area, you're used to certain taxes. But that's not just in blighted areas. Like I said, there's people in 5 Points that have had properties that they inherited from their families. So they're paying a certain amount for the value of their houses, but somebody comes in and they buy a house, renovate it, and make a $5 million home next to them, then your assessed value goes up and then you have to pay higher taxes. To me, that's gentrification, and people have to be pushed out.
Mr. Denson. Define gentrification.
I'd say it's improvements in infrastructure changes and building that happens in the community that then makes that community too expensive for the folks who live there already to be able to remain. And a lot of times those improvements and that infrastructure is not built in a way that's actually designed for the people who live in that community, but it's oftentimes built for others.
Quicker than 45. Okay. Your definition of gentrification, thank you.
Gentrification is when I have lived somewhere all of my life, and then I find myself being unable to afford my taxes and unfamiliar with the neighborhood that has been created. Many have heard of the concept of white flight, okay? When people leave places, they go places that they may consider better or safer.
10 seconds.
I look at gentrification also as a flocking of people with means, okay? It's almost like the opposite of white flight, okay? And those individuals and those homes are then placed in neighborhoods that changes the quality of life for those individuals.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, on the heels of this discussion, we have an ongoing problem in this community with folks who don't have a home to live in. They don't have a house. They don't have a roof over their head. We see them making do with what they can possibly gather up, and they build homes in the forest. They live downtown. They sleep under awnings. As mayor, what are some strategies you plan on employing to ensure that these folks can live a life of dignity in the classic city?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And for the last few years, I've been working to get folks housed who are experiencing homelessness, working at the Homeless Day Service Center, getting to sit down every day with these individuals, getting to know them, getting to understand the barriers that are there, getting to understand the challenges that they have. This is something close to me because as a child, my family also had short experiences of homelessness that I got to really see how it can really impact, especially children and families, and impact not only the present situation that family is in, but the entire future of that family. And working at the Homeless Day Service Center, we were able to see that programs like permanent supportive housing works, especially for folks who are facing chronic homelessness, somebody who's been homeless for a number of years. And what we do there is that we subsidize their housing, get them into housing, and also provide them wraparound services with case management, people who meet with them every single month, sometimes every single week, to help them remove some of those barriers. And for some of these families, that's going to be a permanent thing that's always going to be there because those barriers are going to be permanent. But some folks also are able to move their way out of that and actually be able to not have to have that kind of same support. But this is the thing. I think we all agree that we don't like homelessness.
10 seconds.
I think what we need to work on is what we're going to do about it. What we have to do is just get these folks housed. My challenge is going to be to this entire community, for the UGA, the Chamber of Commerce, the hospitals, the state of Georgia to join with us and to take up a commitment that we will reduce the chronic homeless in Athens-Clarke County by 50% over the next 10 years.
Thank you. Dr. Gantt, the problem of homelessness and the unhoused, as mayor, what were you need to put on your agenda to attack this problem?
I think we need to expand our wraparound services. I think that if you look at our point in time report from 2025, earlier this year, we were able to draw some conclusions about people that are unhoused. So one, we saw that a significant amount of individuals reported having mental health challenges. We saw that a significant amount, almost 50% of individuals also reported being disabled of some sort. We also saw that we had, I think it was about 40, maybe 48 people that were fleeing from a domestic violence situation. And so we have a variety of different reasons that people end up homeless. We also saw that there was a good number of people that had become homeless within that past 6 months. And so I think if we can expand our wraparound services, then we get to the root causes of what may be contributing to that person's situation. It's, you can have a house for a person, you can have a place for a person to live, but until you can begin to address some of those underlying concerns and underlying contributing factors, you have a home and then the person may leave. So it's possible that those issues are not resolved. So we are going to have to expand wraparound services, but we also are going to have to expand our mental health services as well.
Thank you, again. Ms. Zuniga, homelessness, a problem in the county. As mayor, what will you put on your agenda to attack it?
Well, I think first we have to understand that it is a very complex problem. And when you have a complex problem like this, some policy created it. We have to look at what created it. And part of it is that we're a hub for services. The areas, the surrounding areas bring their unhoused to Athens for services. And we can work with partners, and this will be a very costly solution. It shouldn't be a local solution because they would be only a Band-Aid the way that I see it. So to me, I would look for sustainable solutions with the state and the surrounding areas because I think we need to share those costs. We can come up with solutions, but they have to be shared. It cannot be solely an Athens local problem. And I think part of the situation is going to have to be speaking with the state representatives, and you have to be able to sit down and dialogue with them. So yes, that would be how I would approach it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a follow-up question on this topic. Tim, this will be you first, about a minute. All you talked about solutions in some capacity. A couple of years ago, there was a temporary solution, and there's the temporary homeless encampment. And it is now disbanded, and it seemed to be a pretty hot topic with a lot of different opinions. What's one lesson that you think we all learned from that potential temporary solution? You have 1 minute.
I'll just speak really shortly to that. I actually, working at the Homeless Day Service Center once a week, I would actually go there to First Step and actually meet with clients that we would work to get into housing. It helped us. One of the biggest challenges whenever you're working in homeless services is these folks are transient, right? Their telephones constantly change. You can't find them. They don't have email addresses. They can't check. Whenever they're there at First Step, we could actually go and find them. And we got a great number of those folks into housing. I know for a fact that a number of them are housed right now. Talking to the point in time count, I volunteered for that count for my 3rd year in a row this year. That count is drastically under. It's much higher than that. The way that works is that basically you have one morning and early afternoon to try to find every single homeless person in Athens-Clarke County. You can't do it. So that number is much higher. And speaking to the idea that we are a hub for services, we are because DBHDD in the state of Georgia has designed it that way. We serve an entire region, including Walton County, Oglethorpe County, Jackson County, all those places. It is designed that way because it's a more efficient and effective way to help people who are experiencing homelessness in Northeast Georgia. Okay.
Sorry. You can keep going.
I'm saving it. I'm saving it.
Tim, you didn't compliment me, so you don't get very much time.
That jacket looks great.
Too late. Dr. Gantt, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
And can you restate that question for me?
Yeah, what's one lesson that you think we all learned, or you learned from the temporary homeless encampment that was disbanded about a year and a half
So one of the things I have witnessed that happens in government, it happens in institutions, is that we will allocate money to something and then we will try it, and then the minute that it stops appearing how we want it to appear, we will either pull the funding or just simply stop it altogether. So I think that's the first thing, is when we go into the projects, when we take initiatives, we have to first operationally define the problem that we are trying to solve. Secondly, we also have to have outcome measures. What is it? How are we going to measure our success? What are going to be the indicators that we are moving towards this particular goal? And I don't know that we did that well. I don't know that government does that well. And so that would be the first thing, coming back and looking, what did we do right? What was our goal? And then should we move towards that effort in the future? What did we learn? And again, what are the outcomes we are expecting from this initiative?
Thank you, Dr. Gantt. Ms. Zuniga, you're up. You have 1 minute.
Lessons learned from the homeless encampment.
The lesson that I learned was that there is a lot of decisions that are made by the local government that just don't make sense. I mean, when this issue came up, I was very vocal. I was against it completely, because to take $2-3 million and put people outside on tents, we saw the first effects when the storms came. Some of the tents just flew away. It was horrible. I mean, these are people. They needed a brick and mortar, a building, so that they could be away from these weather issues. So the lesson that and also I believe that the person, even though it had nothing to do with the person that was running the tent encampment, I think I give credit to anybody who would try to run anything. But I blame it on the local government, because I see them as I would see myself as a business person. If I'm going to hire someone, I have to look at the qualifications, I have to look at the plans, I have to see some sort of projection. I don't think anything of that was taken into effect, and that's why it failed.
Thank you, Ms. Zuniga. All right,
Thank you.
Drew.
Yeah, all right. Before we go to the next topic, that was a cluster of topics that were interrelated. I think we should give our candidates a round of applause.
Yeah, round of applause.
A very looking crowd too. I can't see anybody. So. We have faces for podcasts. So the next topic is going to be, let's see, Dr. Gantt, this will be to you first. The largest employer in Clarke County is UGA. And since I've been here, I've seen some ebbs and flows of how the mayor and commission develop or do not develop relationships with this the largest employer.
10,000 employees roundabout.
I would think there'd be more, but that's surprising.
Exactly 10,000.
Google it. So, if you were mayor, what would be the things you would do to start developing a new relationship with UGA, and how would you go about doing that? You have about a minute and a half.
So let me first say that in all honesty, I received my degree from the University of Georgia, and both graduate degrees. And as a girl growing up here, I knew of the university, like in concept and idea, but I did not know it. I don't think I stepped foot onto the campus until probably as a high schooler, or maybe even when I applied to graduate school. And so it was foreign to me. I still believe, it felt separate is what I'm saying. It still feels that way. The university seems like it's one place, and then Athens seems like it's another place. And yes, we send students over there throughout the year. Yes, there are programs, but we still have very separate realities. We have a relationship, the county and the university, but I believe that we have to examine that relationship. I think it starts with more dialogue. I think your mayor has to be positioned they have to feel comfortable cultivating a relationship, but also asking for some difficult things. We need to balance our relationship with the University of Georgia. And I don't know that we are not there yet. Still, I will repeat, there are hundreds and hundreds of acres right now in our county where we do not have we don't receive taxes. And so that is the most immediate way that I believe that we could balance our relationship. Sorry about that.
Okay. You have 1 minute 45 to answer the question about how you develop a relationship with UGA.
Well, UGA is not going anywhere. I mean, it's an institution that has been around for a long time. It's prestigious, it's world class. They are a resource to us. I just think there is an imbalance. You know, sometimes we have different factions in Athens, and sometimes when you give a little bit more leeway to one faction, there is an imbalance. So we can both mutually benefit from each other, and I think we would have to sit down with UGA and have a conversation. You have to respect a big institution like that in order to come down to an agreement, a balanced agreement with them about how we can approach some of the issues that maybe they themselves are creating.
Mr. Denson, 1 minute and 45 if you want.
Thank you. So yeah, definitely we have to have dialogue, and I would be trying to, as mayor, trying to establish regular meetings with UGA administrators, also with the student government administration. As commissioner, we had those with the student government back when I was on the commission, and they were very helpful dialogues and helpful things that a lot of good positive things came out of it. When we talk about it as being an employer, UGA does need to do better. I was a labor organizer for a number of years with United Campus Workers of Georgia and worked on the UGA campus trying to help employees organize and get better wages, get living wages paid for them, get better, make it where they don't have to pay for parking when they come to their own job, such things like that. So, I mean, there's ways that we need to be very true about those things that need to change, but while also needing to find that common ground that we see. I think some of those things are like downtown public safety. Again, reducing homelessness, thus housing the student population when the student population is growing so much, but UGA is not building that much student housing. So we could find these things and find better ways that we can find solutions. One of the things that that I'm hoping that we can do is get better public safety happening, because I know that's a big priority for the students, for the parents, and for the university. And we've started taking those steps, and I think there's better ways that we can do that too.
Thank you. So, quick follow-up, and Dr. Gantt, this comes out of some of your remarks, and Denson and Zuniga. UGA growing, is it preferable for them to acquire more land that would be off the tax rolls and build dorms, or have apartment developers build those apartments on private land and have them contribute tax money to the government? 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
I think when we talk about what's profitable, I think we have to ask for who. We have a housing problem here in Athens. And so I think when we ask what's profitable, we have to ask what will help Athens. And what will help Athens is if we have some type of public financial support from our institutions that are not on our tax rolls. Now, whether that means they're going to buy up more, if they're going to buy up more and then pay taxes on more. But I don't think we can continue talking about affordable housing communities without having this conversation.
Thank you. Time. Ms. Zuniga, the question, UGA growing, better for them to get more land off the tax rolls and build their own housing, or have that housing come from private developers that do pay property tax?
I definitely think that the second option is best, because we do not want UGA to continue not contributing to the taxes. However, I know that there have been projects where the question comes up as to where they're building them. And I think that's important, because where they might be building them with the developers, there's a project right now, which I know you guys are aware of, and maybe the community as well, where they will be building that kind of situation. And the community came out because they were considered encroaching into a recreational area that children used, to be specific, by the Black community. So when situations arise like that, then you do have to stop and look at the project itself. But I do agree with the second one. We'd rather have them pay the taxes, but to also be considerate of where they're building these projects.
Thank you. Mr. Denson, public dorms that are tax-free or private apartments that pay tax?
Well, we do not want UGA trying to take more land whenever we are the smallest landmass county in all the state of Georgia. That one, I don't see it as a good option. Now, at the same time, we do want UGA building more dense dorms, and that they are going to be building them, because again, they have really not kept up with their growth. But the reality is, again, we have students. I think that enrollment has increased. I don't think there's a year outside of maybe in the pandemic that enrollment has not increased every single year. Again, looking at that 12,900 to 24,100 since 1989 to right now. So we do have to find a place for these students to live. They're going to live somewhere. If a place is not designated, what's happening? It's happening right now. They are living in our neighborhoods, right? They're moving in. They're renting a house that used to be rented by maybe a family in Normaltown, or by a family on the east side, or the student developers are moving into the east side and building housing there. So again, I think we need to be looking at our future land use map, our zoning map, and designating where we want student housing, especially around downtown.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Next up, taxes and public services. Real exciting. There is a law that was passed in the legislature, signed by the governor this past cycle, that froze the increase in tax assessments on property. So our local assessors cannot increase assessments on property above a certain threshold, 2% annually. Now, in conjunction with that, counties are allowed to pass an extra % of sales tax. Some leaders in the community are planning to possibly put a ballot referendum forward to push Athens sales tax to 9% from 8%, and to direct those funds towards an affordable housing fund. And I thought this presented a pretty clear picture of the question between taxation and providing public services. So Ms. Zuniga, as mayor, what do you think about that proposal, first of all? And also, how do you arrive at a conclusion when you're trying to balance these conflicting issues of taxes and public services that then are provided by the collection of such?
You know, when you go out to the community and you ask people these questions, there are some people that say, I don't mind paying higher taxes if I do see the results. I was speaking to a particular person last week, and he said to me, you know, I have kids. I want to see my kids play in a nice, clean park. Some people tell me, you know, I don't mind paying the taxes if I see, you know, what I need is being provided. That also would be like, let's say, for public safety, that would be for the public services that you get. So I do hear a lot of people complain about, you know, if I pay my taxes, I want to see results. And taxes are high. So when you go into other areas, there are people on fixed income where the taxes that, the assessment, because the assessment is what brings the prices up, they're already struggling. You know, they're already struggling. So to me, when I look at situations like that, I like to listen to the community, because you are the ones that matter. You are the ones that have to, you know, tell us as local officials, what is it that you want, you know? I know taxes are struggling for everybody. People on fixed income, mothers, you know, fathers. So, sorry, that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Mr. Denson, how do we strike the balance between collecting taxes and providing public services?
Yeah, I mean, it is true. We need to listen to the community when we can. I think the community does have an expectation for the services they're getting now, and they have an expectation for those services to continue. We have fantastic parks. They want to have sidewalks that don't have cracks in them in front of them. They want to be able to drive down the road without hitting a massive pothole. And those things, if we're being honest, right, those things cost money. Those things take revenue. Now, talking about the 1 cent tax replacing the exemption that went in place, y'all will get to choose, because that's actually going to come, if they pass it, the commission passes it, that's going to go to a referendum that will have to be approved by the community. So y'all will get to have that say if you want to continue having the level of services and keep that revenue, or have a depreciation of services but pay less. Now, I think that we do need to look at like how our taxes are collected. That's why whenever I was in the commission, I wrote the legislation that for the first ever low-income homestead exemption to ever be created in the state of Georgia. Unfortunately, the state legislature kind of drafted it incorrectly and put a specific year in place instead of having it be where the poverty rate goes up. So we needed to get that fixed. But I think we need to be taking more steps like that so that when we have homeowners, they are not being hit with these massive tax bills. And this also helps, again, with the gentrification so that they can stay in their homes and not be pushed out.
10 seconds.
But we also, because of this homestead exemption that went in place, it is going to make some challenges. I think we need to start diversifying our revenue and finding new ways to get revenue. I have some great ideas, such as creating a inclusionary parking policy and a number of other things that help bring in revenue in new ways.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention, candidates will have a 2-minute closing statement at the end, so you'll be able to sound off where you maybe didn't before. All right, now again, balancing tax collection and the provision of public services.
So related to your question, at the beginning of that question, you mentioned an additional 1 cent onto the sales that we have. While I think that could be an option, we still get to the place where we are taxing people that are experiencing poverty, regular everyday people that are just trying to make it. I'm going to circle back to what I mentioned. We have public institutions. We have nonprofit institutions here. I really think we have to prioritize these conversations about how they can contribute to our local housing fund. Now, is that going to wipe away every single problem? But we keep talking about other options that will result in taxing poor people more and taxing people that are already on fixed incomes more, when we have options to have hard conversations. We have to start somewhere. We have to start with the conversations. We have to start with the asks. And we have to focus on the things that will give us the most bang for our buck. Yes, we can tax people, but if that makes it to a vote, we'll see, we will have based on history, there's low turnout. People that work every day, maybe disqualified from voting, things like that, oftentimes is not representative of those who are unheard. So that means we have to do the hard work. We have to ask the hard questions.
Time. Thank you, Dr. Gantt.
All right,
Drew.
moving to the next topic here. This is for Mr. Denson first. So our local government has some constraints when dealing with laws at the state level, the federal level. So my question here is about the relationship with our state government. It's a two-part, and so what do you think our relationship is currently with the mayor and commission and the state government? And to be an effective local government, what should that relationship look like? You have a minute and a half.
Sure, thank you. The relationship with the state government is complicated right now and difficult in some ways and works in some ways. But I think that one of the things that we need to do specifically to this and that the mayor could do to help with this is for us to get a lobbyist for Athens-Clarke County. Many other metro counties, almost all other metro counties in the state of Georgia, have a lobbyist or hire a lobbyist to actually be at the state capitol during the 40-day session to be lobbying for the needs, the priorities of Athens-Clarke County. And without doing that, a lot of times we're just getting left behind and not having some of the conversations that we could be. Outside of that, we need to, again, find that common ground. Meeting with our state legislators, try to find out where we do agree, try to move forward on those ones, and on those other big, more complicated ones that we can't find common ground on, we're going to have to find other ways to be able to do it. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're standing up for the autonomy of Athens-Clarke County, the people of Athens, that, right now we're facing a lot of pressures from the federal government trying to come in here and force us to do things that we should not be doing that would harm the residents of Athens-Clarke County. So we have to make sure we're standing up for the autonomy also. Now, With that being said, I do want to go. I'm gonna go back to the previous question a little bit.
10 seconds.
Okay. All right. Never mind. Only 10 seconds. I'm not kidding.
All right, Dr. Gantt, it's to you. This is a two-parter. So, how do you think our current relationship is with the state governments, and how do you think, what can we do to be more effective locally with that relationship?
I think that our relationship with state government it needs improvement. I think we have to create more formalized ways. What that could look like is identifying specific times that we meet with our state legislators throughout the year, particularly not right when they're getting ready to go into session, but throughout that year before they go into session, particularly as it relates to strategically where we're going as a county. That's not something you just all of a sudden do in a meeting. Those are relationships and meetings that have to happen, relationships that have to be cultivated before they enter into session. I will also say, yes, lobbying, wonderful, I suppose, but we are the voices. Your elected officials are the voices to your state representatives. They are the voices. We are the voices to the institution that we represent. We are the voices that are supposed to represent you. And so when we start getting into paying people to do the work that we're supposed to be doing,
10 seconds.
sometimes there's misinterpretation, there's misprioritization. I don't even know if that's a word. But so the best course of action is for us to be able to have the conversations with our state legislators.
Thank you, Dr. Gantt. So this is time for the first rebuttal. Tim, the idea of a lobbyist kind of called out by Dr. Gantt.
I'm sorry, I didn't get to answer that
Oh,
question.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought we were going on. Okay. Okay.
So Dr. Gantt called out this idea of a lobbyist, and maybe take about 30 seconds just to elaborate more on that idea, that balance between local government and having a lobbyist be effective.
Sure, and having a lobbyist does not at all replace the relationship that the mayor and the commission use that have with state legislature. I already have a relationship with every single state legislator, state senator, and state representative that serves us right now. I know them by first name. I've sat in their offices at the Capitol multiple times, and I will keep doing it if I'm mayor or not, because I go there every single year almost and advocate for this community many times, multiple times. But to have a lobbyist is completely different than that. We have more than 200 legislators that are there at the state capitol. The mayor of Athens-Clarke County cannot meet with every single one of those people. We meet with all the ones that are locally, and we'll go there. But we need to have somebody that's in that building every single day of that 40-day session, just like Atlanta does, just like Savannah does, just like Macon does, and advocating for the people of Athens-Clarke County.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gantt.
Dr. Gantt, you want 15 seconds? Last word? Go for it.
I will say, I don't know if you all have heard of the game telephone. By the time a message comes from me and it gets to the person, it's a totally different message. And one of the things that we struggle with in our community is lack of representation for unheard voices. I'm not confident that a lobbyist will represent unheard voices.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Zuniga.
Zuniga, you have a minute and a half.
Okay. I don't think we have a good relationship with the state representatives. I went to a mayor commissioner retreat not too long ago where the city manager pretty much said that the local Athens government works too political. And that's a problem because when you elect us, you're electing us on a nonpartisan stance. Whatever party we may believe in or may be aligning with, you have to put your head at the door. You're no longer part of any party. You should not be giving propaganda to any party. You're working for the people. And the people have very different backgrounds here in Athens. So I don't think we have a good relationship with the state representatives because a lot of the folks, public officials, Tim included, tend to have a voice to criticize. I don't know how someone could sit down with you if your first voice and dialogue with them is to criticize, you know? I don't think that public officials should be part of any protests. I think you have to sit down and look at what's best for your community. That's everybody. So we should be nonpartisan, and state representatives should see us as nonpartisan so that we can sit down with them. I think that's a key thing for any mayor.
Thank you. Really had something we wanted to mention real quick.
Yeah.
Could I get a rebuttal since my name was mentioned?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Of course.
Thank you.
30 seconds.
If I'm mayor, I will be at protest. I don't think that's a surprising rebuttal.
There's differences up here.
Because again, I am going to advocate for the people of Athens-Clarke County every single step and every single opportunity that I can. I am a community organizer. I am going to keep on organizing this community, hopefully from the mayor's office, so that we can have a strong community. And I will be at the state capitol just again, as I have literally dozens of times. I will sit in Senator Frank Ginn's office. I will sit in Representative Gaines' office. I will sit in Senator Kauser's office, and I will plead with them to do what's best for their own community, as they live here, many of them, and for the people that they represent. We do have common ground. We both represent the people of Athens-Clarke County, and we should both want what's best for the people of Athens-Clarke County.
Great, thank you. And my apologies for
okay.
missing your name. I was up here just talking to my buddy Drew. Hey, Miss Zuniga,
Yes.
counter rebuttal.
There are many ways to fight for the people. Many, many ways. That's your way, Tim, and I have to say, I rather dialogue with people. You get farther when you fight for the people. We are both will be fighting for the people. Your method will be different than mine. I tend to think that when you treat people with respect, even if they have a difference in opinion, you get farther than when you criticize them. So I don't think I've ever seen you in Athens here sit down with any local state representatives. You were never there when I'm there and I see them, but you know, I'm just saying.
All right. We'll have, and then of course we're going to have the moment towards the end where the candidates can ask each other a question. So we can explore more there.
Now, before we go to the next topic, just want to point out, we have a special election with early voting starting in a week and a half. House District 121, there was Marcus Wiedauer resigned, and so I believe we have candidates on both sides running. So please look that up. If you don't know which House district you're in, Google it, and you might be living in 121, and you get to vote again.
All right. So next topic, Dr. Gantt, and this came up. This topic punctuated in my mind with Ms. Zuniga's remarks. She was talking about how taxes could be fine as long as people see something good for the community that flows from it. And so this goes into my question about infrastructure. You know, in Athens, Georgia, I don't know what's gotten into us, but it's taken us decades to build very simple things. 23 years to put a protected bike lane down Prince Avenue. It's about a third of a mile. 17 years to connect two branches of the Greenway through a cemetery. Years and years, rounds and rounds and rounds of public input. Speed is progress. People want to see their government act. As mayor, how can you prioritize the delivery of good projects for the good people of Athens?
1 minute.
So I think that we have to understand there are some things about government, and if we're talking about like FLOST projects and things like that, they typically are going to occur on a timeline. And you have to know when you're an elected official that that timeline is not always your timeline. Whether we like it, love it, or hate it, it's the part of governance that happens. It does not mean, however, that there are not improvements that can be made. I really would like to see us lessen the amount of projects, quite frankly. Most times when projects come through, like if we're referring to, you referenced too, Russell, that, but when projects like that come through, oftentimes by the time it happens, it's a different time, different people, you have different governing bodies. The cost has just increased just because of time. And sometimes you may find that you did not have as much public input, or maybe there are some areas of improvement. And so I think if we can lessen some of the projects, yes, it's great. I sat in on an advisory committee for SPLOST one year, and we had like a lot of different projects. We have to make hard choices. And that to me is reducing the number of projects so that we can effectively manage them.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gantt. Ms. Zuniga, 23 years to safely ride my bike a third of a mile. Wow, that's dispiriting. What can we do here in Athens-Clarke County to speed up these projects and make our community a better place?
Well, you mentioned, Russell, public input, and that's up to my mind right now because, there are times where you think things are moving smoothly, and then you have a large public input that could set things apart, and people that have been working on a project have taken months and months to get to a certain point. But then when they get to that specific point to get approved, you get a mass amount of people to give public input. Here's the thing. I think people come to public inputs is because there's a lack of trust. Our government has a spending problem. We have a spending problem, and they putting money and allocating in things that when they get to a certain point in approving, a lot of people feel that there wasn't enough information out there. And there are people that have tried to get information. Getting information is difficult. And I know for some people it may not be difficult, but I've come to community members where they're saying, do you know where I can find this information? Do you know where I can get this on the website? And it's difficult because it takes them months to look for this information and to access other people that know about it. So public input would set back situations, but I think it's a lack of trust by the community for the local government.
Thank you, Ms. Zuniga. Mr. Denson, 23 years for a safe place to ride a bike for just a third of a mile. People are literally dying before these projects get completed.
Yeah, we need to do better, but I don't want to blame the community or public input necessarily for it. I do think we need to be engaging with the community. As a commissioner, I held over 35 town halls during my 4 years as a commissioner, and I will do the exact same as mayor, having town halls on a regular basis so that people are informed before those things even come up to a vote, or the day of a vote, so that things have to get delayed because people don't know about things. So we really get out there ahead of time, informing folks and engaging with them. Now, I think what happens a lot of times is that sometimes public input is used to stall things by the mayor and commission because they are not comfortable moving forward and maybe lacking the political courage to move forward. We can look at the transportation improvements, safety improvements on North Avenue, in which we lost $25 million because the commission decided to pass a CDO against staff's recommendations that was going to send staff back to have to redo the whole thing, and because of that, delayed the whole project, and we lost $25 million from the federal government for safety improvements on that road. So we could be doing a lot better, but I think that the mayor commission and the county government need to be doing a lot better of making sure that we do have public input engagement, it's worthwhile, and it's meaningful.
Great. Thank you. You would like a rebuttal?
Yes, Tim said that I was blaming the community for practicing their right.
Never said such a thing.
You just said that. You said you didn't want to blame the community for going.
I don't want to blame the community. Yeah.
I think that the public input is something that the community has as a right to practice at any time.
Okay, all right. Counter rebuttal clarification.
Dr. Gantt,
Yeah, I don't want to blame the community. Again, I want to make sure that we have public input that is meaningful and for good reason and engaging. I'm sorry that you took it as an attack on you. It was not at all.
No, you attacked the public, not me. You didn't insult me.
Dr. Gantt, would you like to weigh in with your own rebuttal?
I think so.
Go for it.
I was going to say the idea of town halls. They are great. They can't be our only way. We have people who are unheard in our community who do not have the time to go to town halls. They are working 2 and 3 jobs. We don't suffer from lack of jobs or ideas. They are trusting their elected officials to know their communities intimately and to be able to make decisions when they are not there. It's not fair if people that just show up at town halls are the ones whose voices we are compelled by. We have to do the hard job of going where they are and representing them.
Can I reply to that?
Sure, 15 seconds.
Yep, completely agree.
Have a great time.
Yeah, completely agree. Town halls cannot be the only way at all. And that's why also as commissioner, I was knocking on doors, not seeking re-election. I was knocking on doors while I was serving as commissioner, talking to people about the Vincent Drive sidewalk, trying to get their best input on there. Going on the people on Whitehead Road, talking to them about how we can get bicycles or better transit systems. I was there every single, not asking for re-election, doing the work, going to people's doors, going to the community centers, talking to them. And again, as mayor, I will continue doing that because I come at this job as a community organizer.
Fascinating discussion. Representative democracy, people vote, they have elected leaders, and the question of, do we need more public input? When do we need it? All right, Drew, fire away, buddy.
Moving on. Zuniga, I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Let's
go back.
Zuniga.
30 more seconds.
Extra, yeah.
All right. Dry mouth over here. So we're going to talk about an issue of eminent domain. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the Firefly Trail is not completed yet. The fire station out on the east side, I think we're going to get there, right? The votes were there, and that's going to happen. But in both of these recent examples, the issue of eminent domain came up. And there's been a lot of variability on the mayor and commission in terms of people's individual views on this particular way of doing things. Can you provide your opinion of eminent domain and how it applies to these two local issues that we've been dealing with? A minute and a half.
Okay. So the way that I see eminent domain, it's like a tool. You take a hammer, you can build with it, or you can destroy something. It's how you use it. Lately, it seems that eminent domain, and I believe that eminent domain should be used for things that benefit the whole society. If everybody's going to benefit, then that's great. Like a road, you're going to have a road and it's going to benefit, then eminent domain is good. But when you talk about a recreational trail, that only benefits a few. And when you take that trail through areas where people are not really going to use that trail, and you're taking a bit of their property and you're giving them a market value for virtually them not agreeing to having their property taken, that is a problem. That's the way I see it. That would be taking that hammer and destroying something while building something nice for the very few. So I think that eminent domain has to be practiced when it's something that benefits the whole society. Now, we've had two situations here in Athens where eminent domain, one was done and it went through a couple of people's backyards. And the second one, in the same manner for the Firefly Trail, there were three options. I always think that before you take the option of going through people's properties, look at what other detour areas you can take. It might be costly for the city, but then again, the city has a spending problem. So I can't see them not paying for a detour route instead of going through people's properties.
Thank you.
Mr. Denson.
I apologize for Ms. Johnson.
That's okay.
Mr. Denson, a minute and a half, what's your opinion of eminent domain and how it applies to these two local issues?
Yeah, it's a tool, and it can definitely be a dangerous tool sometimes, right? I mean, not looking further than like Linden Town to see absolute devastating impacts of what eminent domain can do. But then this past Tuesday at the Mayor Commission meeting, I was there, and they unanimously voted in for the Oglethorpe-Hawthorne intersection to do eminent domain there. And that was unanimous from the commission. So it goes the whole different direction. Now, I think this question, like you said, is much more focused on a couple of specific examples with the East Side Fire Department and the Firefly Trail going through there. Something that we need to think about whenever we are moving on these things, especially I think when it comes to the fire department, is that this choice not only impacts potentially the current property owners, the current people, but when you're talking about building a fire station, it's the future of Athens. I mean, that could impact the person who's driving on Lexington Highway 15 years from now that gets into an accident, and have we delayed the amount of time that it takes for the fire department, who is almost always the first EMS responders, to get to an accident to save somebody's life because we pushed it further away because somebody didn't want to have light pollution next to their house. So yeah, we do need to make sure we're doing that balance of the full community good over what the wants and the needs are of a small handful number of people. Now, when it comes to the Firefly Trail, it's much more complicated because part of it was that this was on a SPLOST referendum, a T-SPLOST referendum, and that we had to build it on the railroad bed. Had to. If it was not done, anybody in Athens-Clarke County could bring suit against the county saying that we actually violated that resolution in the agreement with the county.
Thank you, Mr. Denson.
Thank you. Dr. Gantz, what is your...
What's your opinion
of... What are you doing?
Doctor.
We started to sing a song? Okay. Dr. Gantz, you have a minute and a half. What's your opinion of eminent domain and how it relates to these two local issues?
I think that while it is something that can be used, we need to be more intentional about how we use it. What I understand is that oftentimes government leaders, elected officials, when we are making bad decisions that are just bad for people, oftentimes we don't realize it in the moment that we're doing it. You referenced like Lennon. I'm pretty sure it was people during that time that thought, yeah, no, this is for the good of whoever. And then there were people that thought it was not. And so I think we have to be more intentional. Currently, my practice, I've experienced a conversation about eminent domain recently. And I will tell you that those conversations, my practice is on Lexington Road. And if you live in Athens and you travel Lexington Road, you know that it is there are parts of it that are very dangerous. And so we have a lot of accidents. So of course we need sidewalks. I'm not going to oppose, being able for the county to have a right of way and build a sidewalk. But how that conversation took place, what was communicated to me as a homeowner or a practice owner there, it could have been improved. And so I think when we already know that we're working with a tool that can be used for good or for bad, it is on the government to have conversations where we educate our community, but also where we are sensitive. We don't approach those conversations and just say, well, we can use eminent domain, and that's what was told to me. And we are also lowballing the people that we're offering to purchase their land. So we need to improve the process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gantz.
All right. Dr. Gantt, right on your, following your remarks, your remarks, you go right perfectly into my next question. 2023, 21 Athenians died on our roads, and there were 89 pedestrian-involved crashes on our roads. 2024, there were 10 deaths, 84 pedestrian-involved crashes on our roads. 2025, 7 deaths so far on our roads, 24 pedestrian crashes, 2 deaths on Thomas Street, right by our Classic Center arena. Pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, road safety is tremendously important. It's a need, right? And it's within the authority of our local government to do something. Mr. Denson, what is your plan to make our roads safer and bring the number of deaths down?
So we need to expand our sidewalks, especially crosswalks, our sidewalk and crosswalk infrastructure, so we have safe crossings. As a commissioner, I was spearheaded getting sidewalks approved, again, the delay, still not all happening, on Jefferson River Road, on Vincent Drive, on Tallahassee Road, at Bishop Park, where we had the park butts up against Hawthorne, but there was no entrances there to it. So I put together a CDO so we could have a safe entrance on both ends of the park so people could get in to enjoy it. I want us to be building more sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, and prioritizing them around our public parks and our schools, first and foremost. And you say, how are you going to pay for it? Thank you for asking. We will pay for it by having an inclusionary parking ordinance put in place, which right now we have parking minimums for any developer who's trying to build something here in Athens-Clarke County. And usually those parking minimums are much higher than what the developer actually thinks they need to have parking spaces for. So the minimum might say you need to have 80 spots, but the developer says what we're building here only needs to have 50 spots. So for those 30 spots, the gap there, we give the choice to them to, instead of building them, they can instead pay 50% of what it costs for them to build into a transportation fund that we will use to fund an expansion of public transit, sidewalks, and crosswalks and bike lanes across our county.
Thank you. Dr. Gantt, you're intimately familiar with the crashes and the unsafe conditions on Lexington Road. What can you do as mayor to make our roads safer? 38 deaths in the past 2 years.
I think it is very important that neighborhoods and places in our city have, at the very least, a sidewalk. Because even if I don't own a bike or if I do not own a car, I need to have a way to get from point A to point B that does not involve me walking on Lexington Road. And so I think that's first and foremost. There's a myth in government that we can do all things at all times. And the truth is we cannot. So what that means is that we have to prioritize. First, people need to be able to get from point A to point B with the things that they have, right? And that is like being able to, I can walk from this place to that place. Secondly, okay, if we're talking about someone who might have mobility issues, we also need to improve our transportation services for people that are disabled because they may not be able to walk on a sidewalk or get from point A to point B easily. And then we look at these other ways that create safe ways for people to go from point A to point B. But I want to point out something, and this is not to, make anyone feel bad, but as growing up, my mom, she walked to work, but she did not have the luxury of having a bike. She did not have the luxury of being able to do, of having a car. So the most important thing at that time to survive and make a living was a decent sidewalk.
Time. Thank you, Dr. Gantt. Ms. Zuniga, 38 deaths on Athens roads in the past 2 years. What can you do as mayor to address this violence on our roads?
Well, Athenians want to feel safe. We cannot thrive if we don't feel safe. And it's true, one of the things that I hear people talk about is sidewalks, sidewalk extensions, So I believe that's one of the most important things, along with better signage and better road designs to reduce accidents. I would also be supporting the ACC Vision Zero Action Plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zuniga. Next up.
Next up. 2 more topics to go, but flying by.
We're having a great time.
I'm having a
All right. Go for it,
Let's do
Drew.
another round of applause.
Round of
Just have
applause.
fun.
Intermediate round of applause for Phil's interstitial comment. Thank you. Very proud. All right, go for it, Drew.
Yeah. All right, so who loves politics and elections?
Hey!
Oh,
I see a hand.
yeah, all right. So 2026 is going to be an interesting election cycle. And so I'm going to ask a delicate question, and you are all politicians and you can answer the ways you want to. Have you made a decision about who you'd like to support in the governor's race? And if you haven't yet made a decision on a name, what are the qualities of a governor that you think are useful and important in times like this that we have? Dr. Gantt, you have a minute and a half.
I have not. I have been researching and looking, and I think we do have some great options so far. I will say that I typically look for in a candidate a person who is courageous and who is comfortable fighting against the status quo. A person who can have tough conversations but also listen. And a person that is willing to try hard or new things. And so I do think that that is going to be important. It actually may separate some people. I know that there has been, I think, at least one event where all of the candidates have had an opportunity to speak about their platforms and things like that. But I am looking forward to hearing more. We do have a candidate from Athens who was born and raised in Athens who is also running. And so I think it'll be,
10 seconds.
I think I need more information, but I will say politics has suffered from people who are just used to doing the safe thing. And our current times, we cannot thrive with that person in the governor position or in a mayor position.
Thank you, Dr. Gantt.
Yeah.
All right. Up next.
Zuniga, you have a minute and a half to say that you would be supporting this governor, and if not, name some qualities you think you're looking for.
No, we still have a year to go. I mean, they still have to make their case to the people. I would say I would just look at their personal and professional successes and if they have the best interest for all Georgians.
Thank you, Ms. Zuniga.
Mr. Denson, you have a minute and a half.
Thank you.
Governor's race.
Hot governor's race. I haven't made a decision on an endorsement yet, but I am very excited about Representative Rio Roman's campaign and have met with her and spoken with her. We do have Michael Thurman from here in Athens running, former State Senator Jason Estevez, who I think all of them are interesting. I look forward to, trying to establish relationships with them and whoever's going to win so that we can, again, if I'm elected as mayor, can have a great relationship with them. Saying that, I do want to pivot to a couple other things here, especially when we talked about going back to transportation and infrastructure. Another important thing is our public transit system, which isn't really necessarily brought out here specifically, and how, as commissioner, spearheaded something that when I ran for mayor 12 years ago was told never could happen, which was to have a zero-fare public transit system in place. And we now have it. And we have now this year set the all-time record for ridership in Athens-Clarke County with that system. So that it's especially important because a majority of the riders a lot of times are low-income riders who use that system. And by having a zero-fare system, keeping $1.75 or more in their pocket for every single trip they take to the grocery store, and another $1.75 on the way back, those things, that is economic development that happens within too. And another thing I want to do is, when we're using our SPLOST and T-SPLOST funds, is to provide more of those services for everyone, to make sure that they're getting things like childcare, getting things like healthcare, mental health. Okay, I'll speak a little more about it.
Okay, so within the discretion of the organizers, Mr. Denson brought up some public transit, so let's throw it to the other. Dr. Gantt, would you like to talk a little bit about public transit on the heels of the remarks there? And I'll give you 30, 45 seconds, something like that. Go for it.
Yes, I do think it's important to expand public transit. I also think, though, if public transit is expanded, but I don't have a sidewalk to get to the bus, we're going to have a problem, okay? We're going to have a problem. And so, yes, we can expand public transit. I also am aware that with the recent report on public transit, there are a lot of areas of improvement and weaknesses as far as that report and the user number that's been reported. And so these things are great catchphrases, but people need a way to get from point A to point B. And if you cannot do it safely, then it doesn't really meet the goal that you have.
Thank you, Dr. Gantt. Ms. Zuniga, public transit, certainly an issue in Athens-Clarke County. What do you have to add?
Well, I know about a month ago or so, there was a Take the Bus week, and there was a lot of propaganda, take the bus, take the bus, take the bus. Now, I don't know if that week made a difference for the ridership. It just happens to be in election time. There's a campaign to ride the bus. But I would look at what are the expenses, because we don't have to just look at the ridership. What is it really costing us to maintain free fares, I know there are older people that don't want to take the bus. They don't feel safe. I drive around and I look at how many people take the bus. Because to me, I say we are spending, it's not sustainable, the bus. There should be a method where we could give discounts to people that can afford, to pay the bus, and everybody else can have vouchers. But I don't think they should be free.
Time. Thank you. That concludes the general topic portion of our debate, and we're moving on to a new exciting place. Tell us about it, Drew.
I call it party time. All right. So this next part of the debate, we're gonna let, and again, we about a week ago told each campaign about this part. So each candidate is gonna get one question that they can ask another candidate, and that candidate who is asked that question will have a 1-minute response, followed by a 30-second rebuttal if wanted, and if that is used, a 15-second counter rebuttal. Again, all candidates have about a week to decide what their question was and to whom, okay? So they should be prepared.
But it's a mystery to us.
Well, and also to the person who they're gonna ask the question to.
I assume so. We'll see how cordial and collegial it is.
This is exciting. All right. So going on with the counterbalancing, Ms. Zuniga, you have the first question to ask any of the other two candidates, and they'll have a 1-minute response, and then we'll go from there. So go for it. Keep your question within about a minute or so.
Okay. Most studies agree that the key to escaping poverty is education, and specifically literacy. Students have not developed reading proficiency by 3rd grade are 4 times likely not to graduate from high school. 3rd grade reading proficiency is also a key predictor for college success and beyond. A study conducted during your tenure by 48 of Georgia's best and brightest presented their conclusions at the Board of Education. The literacy statistics for Athens-Clarke County show that only 29% of Clarke County 3rd graders were proficient. You both have been at the table for years engaging policymakers to resolve issues that could have improved fundamental learning goals. Now, on the heels of this study result, both of you are choosing to leave those positions to seek a higher public office, facing greater and more diverse challenges. Why should voters trust you taking this endeavor when you are walking away from the Board of Education where your leadership is needed the most?
Okay, so that's sort of a double pronger.
It was 2 for 1. Yeah.
2 for 1. Okay.
That was my question. Do we get to ask each candidate?
Discount?
Yes.
Yes. No. It originally envisioned each candidate could ask another candidate. However, both of you have been implicated as members of the Board of Education, so within my discretion, you will both be awarded time to respond at their time.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, so Dr. Gantt, you go first.
And you have a minute.
Oh, gosh, a minute. Oh, I'm always stuck with the minute. So let me say this. It is very important to understand that children develop in a context. And that context is not just school. School is critically important. And so I hear the critique. There is work to be done when it comes to improving our literacy rates. And we have seen some improvements, particularly at certain schools. I will say this though. A school is a microcosm of its community. And so when you ask, why would I leave the Board of Education? That was a part of my struggle, because my work has been with children and systems, but I also understand that a child does not develop outside of its family, and a family does not develop outside of a community. And so the community sets the conditions in which our families are having to exist.
10 seconds.
And so unless I am working to improve the community, then my reach is going to be limited with children.
You have 1 minute, and then because it was an efficiently asked question, you'll have a 30-second rebuttal, and then we'll go to the next one.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, everything. The 3rd grade, that is a benchmark that it really tells us the kind of future of a child's education. And there have been some challenges there, and a lot of that's because of that we have massive amounts of poverty happening here in our county. That we have so many. When I'm working at the Homeless Day Service Center, what absolutely breaks my heart is the number of homeless children and families that are brought to the day center and talked about, because they're having to double up at somebody's home, and that's having this massive impact, and they're sleepy at school and they're not able to perform to the level that they could. All that being said, we have seen improvements. A lot of that is some exciting things like we've done with Creature Comforts, with the Get Comfortable campaign, where we've been working with Books for Keeps to put book mentors in schools to actually mentor children 1 hour a week with these kids. I've done this mentorship for multiple years, and we've seen huge improvements there, to the point that they did a presentation just a couple of months ago that showed how huge the improvements are, and now Dr. Scott, our superintendent, who interim, is now looking forward to ways that we can expand that to more schools, because it's working so well. But why am I stepping down? I'm stepping down because for those kids to be able to actually be able to learn to read, they need to have a home. Their parents need to be able to go to a job that actually pays a living wage, and instead of having to choose between childcare and that, those kids need to be able to eat. All of those things. That's why I'm leaving this Board of Education to run for mayor.
All right. Ms. Zuniga, you have the option of the
At the Board of Education, you have one policymaker, and the rest are board members. At the local government, you're going to have 10 policymakers. If you have not been able to sit down with one policymaker to make a bridge with the local government to address those problems, I don't understand. Should we get rid of the Board of Education because they don't have a way to bridge things and problems with the local government? You have, Tim,
10 seconds.
a lot of connections, and you have a lot of knowledge from local government. You could have applied, you could have done a lot of bridges between the people that you know at local government to have worked with the superintendent. You had that ability.
Thank you. All right.
Can I get a vote?
Yeah, sure, of course. Counter rebuttal, Mr. Denson. 30 seconds.
Yes, and of course, I have done that. I've met with commissioners and the mayor to talk about these things and find whatever ways we can. We have had meetings with them. I do wish we would have more regular meetings with the mayor and commission between the school board and the superintendent, and that's one of the things that I have on my platform that you can see at timforathens.com for us to have those regular meetings happening. So thank you for bringing this issue up.
Thank you, Mr. Denson.
All right.
Mr. Denson, your turn to ask a question to one of the candidates.
No, so I have to ask y'all.
Yeah.
She did get to ask both candidates, so can I do have a question for.
If it's a good
Thank you.
question, then I think we'll be happy.
I'll keep the first one super short.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So, Ms. Zuniga, I know that you talked about that this position is not a political position, but it is in the way that you have to work with the folks on the state level and the federal level, and of course, really the parties are just designations on what kind of priorities that they actually have when they're in office. So, with that question, and knowing that you used to serve on the executive committee of the Clarke County GOP, I would just ask if who is it that you supported for president this past election?
Well, thank you for asking that, Tim. Thank you very much. First of all, it really doesn't matter because any one of us, you could ask a question and we could tell you any answer. It doesn't mean we're telling you the truth. It is irrelevant to a local election as well. But I would like to, I like the question that you asked because I want to tell you that when I was young, I was on the far left just like you. Except I was 19 and I grew up. I grew up because there are different avenues that you reach solutions, you know? 19 years old, I knew what communism meant, you know? And although the name has been changed to Socialist Democrats, you know?
10 seconds.
I've been to Cuba, I've seen how people live there, I've been in Nicaragua. So I was in the far left, and I see how politics work. Now, I've gone to the Democratic Party and I've asked if I could speak there. I was not welcomed. I have gone to the Republican Party. I was welcomed there. So I have a tendency to go where I'm welcome. If the Democrat Party calls me, by the way, if the Democrat Party is willing to hear me out, I will go.
Counter rebuttal.
Sorry.
I'm good.
All right.
I have my
Okay.
the second question.
Yeah, sure, okay. Since we had a two-pronger, and then Dr. Gantt will get two questions as well.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I guess my only rebuttal would be. You said that you were glad I asked the question, but you didn't answer the question. That's okay. But I appreciate it. My question for Dr. Gantt is just to get some clarification. You brought up earlier about wanting to get pilots payment in lieu of taxes from nonprofits. Are you also are you saying that for like nonprofit service providers also, or specifically just like UGA or churches or what?
I would love to start with the University of Georgia. There are, I think when we look at the nonprofit service providers, it's, you have Advantage, and they're very small when you look at like the land amount that is occupied. Typically, payment in lieu of taxes, those programs, when we look at them across the United States, a lot of the money comes from either educational institutions or medical institutions. And so I would love to start there. I would not rule out churches and other, larger organizations. Oftentimes, churches already have as a part of their mission to, to impact the community, to provide service. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity to fold in our religious organizations into that ask. But who I'm starting with the organization or the institution that has the most land, that seems to have the most land, but also where the people are using, or the students and families are using the resources in Clarke County.
Thank you, Doug. Again. Kind of rebuttal. You good?
Definitely. We have pursued trying to get a pilot. The county government's pursued trying to get a pilot from UGA. I would love for them to reconsider. I would love for them to pay a pilot. I do have concerns, though, on us trying to base our housing policies on getting a pilot from an entity that we have no control over giving us that money.
Yeah.
Because we're going to need to have policies in place that we as a local government can control and do something about, no matter what outside entities are doing. I agree.
15 seconds. Yeah, go for it.
15 seconds. I agree. But it's our own report that said this is where we need to start, right? We need public help. And so what I'm saying is we're not going to bypass that. We're going to go back to that. Now, yes, there are other options. We can offer tax incentives. But why not start back here? No, we have no control, but the example that you just provided, even with parking, we have no control of any of these things that we're asking, but we still have to ask, and we have to be persistent. And so I think if we can make the case, it increases the likelihood, but no, we don't have control.
All right, thank you.
All right, great.
All right, Dr. Gantt, it's your time. You can ask one or both.
Okay.
The other candidates will have a question. Yeah.
Okay, I was prepared to do one. I thought
That's good.
that was the expectation.
You can do one.
Okay.
You have an option to extend.
And so my question is,
Thank you for following the directions.
I have heard a lot about, Mr. Denson, I've heard a lot about the work you've done so far and your involvement with politics, your extensive involvement with politics in Athens. What skill set would you bring to the mayor and commission, that body, to be able to move that body forward? As you know, the mayor does not get a vote unless it's special circumstances. And so you have to be able to cultivate a relationship with everyone, but with a majority, to be able to move the vision for the county forward. Given the current makeup of the mayor and commission, what skills do you possess that you believe would help you do that?
Thank you for that question. I am very willing to sit down with anyone and everyone. And I have in the past. I mean, whether it's been some of the people that I am most furthest apart from on the political spectrum, the number of times that I've sat at Sips or Hendershots or somewhere and had coffee with them has been many. So definitely doing that and doing the same thing with the fellow commission, with the staff, again, with state legislators, all these different people to get things done. And that is why, whenever I was on the commission, that I was able to get unanimous votes for things that I championed, such as the eviction prevention program, that we used to actually keep 822 households in their homes instead of being evicted. That's how we were able to get things like the zero fare public transit system in place, so that folks can get from A to B, whether that be the pharmacy or the hospital or the grocery store or to pick up their kids from childcare, all those different things. I was able to get that, again, unanimous votes to have them support that. That's how we were able to get the inclusionary housing zoning ordinance put in place unanimously that I worked on, so that we could actually be having a percentage of our housing that's being developed here be reserved for affordable housing, folks who are making less than 60% of the area median income.
Thank you, sir. All right, Dr. Gantt, rebuttal.
Yes, I think that is very important for us. You know, sometimes, well, we say the best predictor of the future is past behavior often. But that was a different commission. These are different times. The commission is way more diverse with perspectives, which means that you're not, it's possible, I know the election is next year, but it's highly possible that you're not going to have a majority progressive commission. You're going to have to be able to work with people regardless of what their perspectives are, and you're going to have to be able to unify at least the core group to move it forward. And so, yes, I hear you saying that you will sit down with others, but what would you say you will bring if it was the exact same commission now? Because you do have a history with some of them as well. And so what other skill outside of listening do you think would help you reach some of your ambitions?
Yeah.
Okay, a very prompt rebuttal.
Yeah.
Rebuttal.
Definitely, being able to work on policy with these folks. Compromise is one. Again, they get a lot of these things done on the commission when I was there previously. Yes, there was more progressive, but again, we had some of the most conservative people voting on some of these things that I just brought up. Many of them still on the commission right now. So definitely compromise and working with folks, meeting them where they're at, and honestly just being absolutely committed where I'm going to spend every single minute, every single drop of sweat, doing what I can that is best for this community.
Great. All right, continuing our round robin movement through time and space here at this lovely art house theater with these lovely candidates. Give them a quick round of applause. How about that, huh? Yeah. We've reached the end of our program ahead of time. All right. So we're going to have a 2-minute closing statement for each candidate. You're welcome to stand if you like. These remarks will be 2 minutes, so you can sum up everything that you maybe chopped off earlier. And we look forward to hearing from you. And the first person up will be Miss Mara Zuniga.
Thank you. So Athens-Clarke County has been growing like many other great places, but with that growth, victories and challenges are coming. And we need a mayor to bring skills in financial literacy and financial experience, and to commit to nonpartisan representation, to be willing to sit down with leaders and engage in difficult dialogues respectfully, and most importantly, bring Athens together to restore trust to the people and build a prosperous Athens for all. So again, my name is Mara Zuniga, Mara for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zuniga. Thank you for your closing statement. Next up, Mr. Tim Denson, 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, definitely thanks to Cine. Thank you, Russell and Drew, for making this opportunity, and thanks for all of y'all being. This is amazing to see this kind of turn out 7 months before an election. So I look forward to us having many more debates past this. Before I get to my closing statement, I do want to bring up one more thing that I didn't get into. And we talked about FLOST and T-SPLOST a little bit, and the complexities of that. And of course, that is a thing that you, the people, the voters, get to decide if we're going to do or not. And we even have, you can submit projects. Did y'all know that? That's one of the reasons we have so many projects. You can submit a project. You see there's a need, an infrastructure need, you can submit a project. It's an amazing program that we have. But then the county also prioritizes a lot of projects and puts them through. That's how we had the Classic Center Arena become like the biggest item. That's how we've had the jail, the SWAT before that, become the biggest item. I believe, and if I'm mayor, I will be pushing hard and prioritizing us to go a different direction with our #1 project that the county gets behind. I believe that we need to be creating what I'm calling a hub, a place that we can ensure that a building that's outfitted for the different services that people here in Athens-Clarke County need, every single person, whether that's healthcare, childcare, mental health, just play and leisure, all of these different things. And so the idea would be that we could build something out, have that discounted space so that we could have childcare providers come in, be able to do subsidized childcare, that we could have a health clinic there to do subsidized and free health, have mental health care, again, for free subsidized health that anybody can go to, but have it built in a way that is a hub for our entire community to come to, green space, playground, parks that are there, that will be somewhere centrally located that everybody can go to. We have spent in the past tens of millions of dollars on these big projects, such as the jail, such as the arena. We can do that same thing to build something that we can make sure that all of the people here in Athens-Clarke County can get housing. We could be having a municipal grocery store in there, like Atlanta is putting in place. We could be doing a lot of amazing things. So again, I'm running for mayor of Athens-Clarke County because I love this community, and I am not going to stop, even if I don't win, working for this community. Please check out my platform at timforathens.com. You can find out ways to volunteer, and right after this, we'll be at Little King celebrating, so come join us.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. LaKeisha Gantt. Time for your closing statement, please.
All right,
2 minutes.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned, my name is LaKeisha Gantt. I am asking for your vote for mayor. I am a native Athenian. I've been here most of my life, and this community has impacted me in so many different ways. A lot of people look at me and they say, oh, okay, well, you're a good example of what can come out of poverty. But I won't stop advocating until I am not an exception. Okay, this needs to be typical for everyone. Everyone here needs to thrive. And that includes people that are not represented in this room. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to focus on housing, but I have an additional minute, so I'll say a little bit more about what I want to focus on as well. In addition to building affordable housing communities, not 2 or 3 units, but communities, I also would like to focus on small businesses. We have to look at not just wages, in addition to wages, but our disparity report showed that our small or our minority-owned business enterprises and women-owned business enterprises, that even when they actually secured a contract, there was a disparity compared to other businesses. So we have a lot to do in the way of supporting our minority-owned businesses, but also our small businesses. Also, general community uplift. Our young people need jobs. They need jobs. We can have all of these great things. Parks are great, but people need a way to put food on their table. They need to survive. And so I want to focus on every child, because we cannot expect the conditions that our families experience not to impact the children.
10 seconds.
And also, I'll just leave with you that we cannot thrive in Athens unless we prioritize everybody surviving. It is not enough just to live, okay? We have to survive and we have to thrive, and you need a mayor who is not far removed from the struggles of everyday people and to make bold decisions about how to improve the conditions that we have in our city.
Thank you. Thank you. Please join me with a round of applause for our candidates. Round of applause for the crowd. There you go. Let's have a round of applause. Round of applause for Sid.